Okay. I don't know if that's going to connect back to this one. No, I don't think so. Which one? Not that one. So it's got to be this one. Right? Just show me a screen. Okay. Jeez. Ay, 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 ay. All right. I think we're good to go now. I don't know what quality the YouTube stream can go at though. I got 720. So we fixed something. I can see 720 in the drop down. We didn't get it up to 1080 yet, but I see 720. At least that's legible. Is that better? I see 720. I don't see 1080, but oh, it's never been 1080p before. Okay, cool. Well, not cool. It's supposed to have been, but at least I know where to go to fix it now. So let's see if I get any more warnings. Anyway, we should be good to go now. So, good morning. Good morning. I think the stream's legible now and ready to see rock and roll and all that fun stuff. Sorry for the little bit of a bump this morning, but anyway, don't forget to grab your morning DP levels. Those are posted for you all this morning on the Major 7. Nasdaq, S&P Gold, Crude Oil, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. Ooh. Spicy. As far as the news calendar is concerned, you really don't have a whole lot today until 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock is the ISM Manufacturing PMI for October. Forecast is 60.5. How's it going, Letty? Good morning, good morning. That's about it. There's not a whole lot else going on. There are going to be some upcoming modifications and changes and all of that to the scheduling and streams and all of that as we go into the end of the year and as we go into the new year and all of that fun stuff. So just know that that there will be a couple things kind of moving around if it looks a little bit weird or something, but that's really all that's going on. Not a big deal there. Anyway, as far as the news calendar is concerned, that's really about it. We've got 11 o'clock and that's probably not going to affect us too much anyway. So let's drop that out of the way. All right. And pop that out of the way. Take a look at some charts. Yeah, and it is flagging me. It's throwing an error at me. It's higher than the recommended bit. See, I used the recommended bit rate of 250 kilobits or whatever it is that they wanted, and then it sent out 480p. So, yeah, your suggestion's garbage, YouTube. Thanks. Anyway, geez, oh Pete. We've got the Nasdaq, which this is a 60-minute. This is not a normal 15-minute. From the 60-minute perspective, zooming out a little bit further, we can see that the market is obviously in a strong rotation to the upside. And realistically, what appears to be, more than anything else, wave 1, 2, 3, haven't had wave 4 or 5 yet. Now, looking at how kind of gross and back and forth it was in here, like, is this the new high? Is that the new high? What's going on? I would consider this to be a messy wave 2, right? It's not the prettiest wave 2. It's not straight up, straight down, straight up. It's not that perfect lightning bolt zigzag textbook example. It's messy, sloppy in here. So chances are there will be a corrective phase down, and that will be wave 4, as long as it stays above wave 1's high or wave 2's high, however you want to look at that, at 15,000, we should be all right. But that corrective phase should be relatively sharp, and then right back up again. It shouldn't stay in that area for very long, given how wave 2 looks. Now, if we were to look at what would be a logical point as to why the market would want to pull back, realistically, it's probably a lot of traders who got stuck on the wrong side of things, right? Looking for short continuation. The market broke down, and this is an hourly, right? So, I mean, some really strong, good continuation down. A lot of sellers are probably looking for that to follow through to a new low. Well, it didn't. That didn't work at all. And a lot of those shorts potentially stuck. So we can kind of see where they may have came in from. If we look at the first rotation from the bottom to the top, the original point of interest that the sellers started selling in at, come on now. There we go. Sorry, I had to make sure that it didn't want to freak out on me. Doesn't really look like sellers were selling or they were selling way far down, but it doesn't look like the sellers were necessarily stuck right away. Right, the POC is right at the bottom. That wouldn't suggest that sellers were stuck at all. If anything, that would just suggest that the bulls bought the dip. So when we start rotating back up, what happens? Right, the POC stays down at the low. We make a little bit of a lower high, and then the POC shifts. The control has shifted. Now, potentially, the sellers are taking over. We reconfirm the sellers are taking over. And then they failed. Right? So when they got ran over, normally what I like to look for is, were they given a chance to get out at break even? Were they given an escape hatch? They weren't. Right? The market never came back. The closest it came was here. I mean, it left them in the dust. So we know that shorts are heavily stuck. So let's follow that line of thought and continue this on our way up to the next new high. We can see, if we go along the way, that we started off with a POC just on the impulses that started off down at 1150. Now, as they rolled into that lower high, we know that they shifted the POC up here. But once they finally rolled all the way up to a new high, the final POC, all of the damage done, was right there at 15, 16, 17, somewhere. I mean, it's an hourly chart. It's not going to be perfect. But that's going to be the zone of interest. Now, as we continue this, right, those would likely be the shorts. Obviously, we already know that the shorts entered in short further up here in the 870s. They probably scalped out, but just noting that the major POC landed in the middle in the 15, 16s. Let's continue that forethought into the new high. Nothing changes. Into the new high. Nothing changes. New high. Nothing changes. New high. We have a POC shift. So, from that POC shift then, we know that the shorts are likely, on average, stuck about between the middle, right? About 50% of the distance between there, give or take, which would put a break even for shorts at around 15,100. Hey, Maurice, how's it going? Now, let's keep this going. Let's go up to the next new high, and all the way up to the new high, no other changes. So, what would be a realistic point of interest for the sellers to try to get this market to come back to? Initially, down to the 22 quarters. Their break-evens are still way down here in the middle. So if we're looking at around a middle point of that... What in the heck? Hang on one second. Sorry, I was recording a video for YouTube. Hang on. Well, anyway. We've got a midpoint, just eyeballing it, right about there. At around 6150-ish. I was doing a Fibonacci video. Obviously, that is that's not the right template. Hang on one second here. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Save as default. Yes. And we back in business. Where's... My lines don't look quite right, though, do they? That one's supposed to be in orange, isn't it? Throwing me off. I'm a color-oriented person now. Come on, you can't... no, I'm a visual... No, that's going to mess everything up if I start flipping colors around on me. There we go. Alright. Should be back to normal. Anyway, so as far as a continuation phase... The S&P looks, I mean, almost identical, right? There's not really a huge difference between the S&P and the Nasdaq in the way that they formed. The one consideration that we could definitely come into play with here is really just the mindset that here again, we have a very sloppy potential wave 2, right? We know it starts here, but like, where did it end? I guess here, it's gross. So wave 4 will likely be quick, decisive, sharp, and not hang around very long, and that gives us an idea as to where the sellers might have gotten stuck again. We can do the same thing. So if we're going in the overall first break above the highs, because they did have that nice little wedge, before it has a freak out. Bottom weighted down here as well. We have the next one up to a new high, no change. We've got the lower high, still no change, all the way up to a new high. There's the new POC. So off of that gross back and forth on the S&P, that's all inside there at 43.50 quarter. Hey, Brad, how's it going? Yeah, good morning again. Hey, at least we got it back up to 720. Don't forget to hit the like on this one, too. You got to hit the like button on this. We got to start all fresh. Gotta appease the algorithm gods. We've got the continuation of the upside. Obviously, the shorts are stuck at 43.50 quarter. But if we continue this to the upside, see if anything has changed. Really, no new highs. Ooh, now there's a lot of volume building up in the 25s. Not enough to shift the POC, though. Wow. Holy moly. Okay, so we have a situation here where the only POC for the S&P is way back at 43.50 quarter. If we're going to be realistic, though, assumably there's going to be a POC shift at around 45 quarter. There's plenty of volume there, and it just has to hang out there for a second to get that job done. But, man, the S&P is leaving a really wide open door right now. That could cause some problems. Gold's still looking sharp and pointy as ever. Not really much of a change there, honestly. We've got mostly a wedge in the grander scheme of things. We're not really breaking a new high or a new low. And, I mean, really, it's just kind of hanging out in the middle. You know, where it is at the moment, I mean, this thing's kind of, right? I mean, it's so sharp and pointy, like it scares the crap out of me. I don't want to put anything on this. The way that this is moving is so just vindictive and aggressive. The only logical points of interest is to be on the spikes. That's the only spot where it lines up. And the last spike that we had was right down here, and I was pretty far away from that. But if it does want to pulse down 72-ish, that would be the zone of interest. If it wants to pulse back up again, we've got another pokey top at around 1812.3 up to 1815. Maybe they want to play ball up there. But a lot of times when they break above these previous ones without a secondary retest, they don't tend to, I mean, they break out. Like, they don't stop. Now, the ones that do hold on the lower highs are the ones that they stay there for a while, right? It doesn't bounce away so aggressively. This one hasn't gone away too far. But it's going to have to pull back soon, otherwise I'm going to lose some faith in these 72.4s. Might just have to wait for another jump. On crude oil, we've got a continuation to the upside. I mean, as it stands, this is starting to look a lot like gold. I mean, geez. The one nice thing is, as it has been holding very nicely off of the lows of the range, we had another big pokey bottom. Worked out nicely, but with a rotation to the upside and I mean, what was the last pullback? An L5, maybe? That one was an L5, rolled back into an L3. That rolled into an L4, and then popped up. So they are holding the L1s. We've got the continuation to the upside. We've got the L4 into 1s. They're continuing higher. If the bulls are going to pull back, likely the 1s are going to be the zone of interest. That's just ahead of settlement. Man, it'd be kind of nice to see them get into settlement, but I suppose the top portion of support comes in at 84. 84 even, or just a few cents underneath it. I would still like to see it go a little bit further down to settlement, though. On the euro, yikes. That's about the only that's about the only thing that we can say about this. Yikes. That's rough. Really, really sharp move to the upside. Took out the top and then just obliterated the longs who were looking for continuation. Man, all the way back down to the lows. Just steamrolled them. So the momentum that we've got going on here, I mean, they had a beautiful wedge, but that concern, you remember we were talking about that fake break above the highs and then it starts rolling. Well, that's what happens when it does fake break. They ended up breaking, all the way down. Now, if this is going to continue lower, a lot of times we'll get a full deviation down. So if we measure the move from bottom to top and project that to the downside, then that does look like downside momentum all the way to 1.148, potentially a negative 2 DP move, if it goes today to the downside for a full deviation. That's crazy. Yikes. Euro's not looking too happy. Bitcoin, we've got a good continuation to the upside, but we're not breaking above the highs. Looks like we took out the last low, took out a lot of stops, but they failed to really get things going above the highs, and that's exactly where we're stalling right now. That kind of sucks. I would really like to see this get through here. Man. Now, we do have another trap on the lows, so it does feel like they're building some momentum, but could you imagine? Again, let's put ourselves in what would be the most vindictive thing for this market to do. Take out this low, right? All the traders who think they have it cornered, they've got the traps, they think they've got it nailed, so they put their stops underneath the low because there's no way it'll come back, right? That would be the most vindictive scenario. So, from a long perspective then, what better spot if we're looking for longs for a risk underneath the ultimate low? Now this is a 3-to-1. 3-to-1 doesn't fit. Does 2-to-1 fit? Ooh, man, that's spicy. Maybe a little lower. You can get it inside the overall high. I would like to really get it in there, but I would say that's going to be the first zone of interest right there. Now, if it is going to dip a little bit further down, let's see if we can get this in a more beneficial zone. Grab that 3-to-1. There we go. So that is the hot pocket. Right around 59,000. See if it wants to be vindictive. On Ethereum, well, looking at the major lows. Jeez, oh Pete, that line's too thick. If you look, we still haven't made a new major low. I missed it. So, with that miss of the low and a continuation back to the upside, our last confirmed low was here. The last confirmed low underneath that was there. Basically just kind of a brick down there. And the next one that they're trying to confirm in the shorter term would be here and here, which they have just now broken not too long ago, in the last couple days. So as it stands, bulls still have a potential continuation to the upside. Looks as though they're trying to get maybe a flag of some sorts. Not too bad. Could look better, but not too bad. Starting to break above the highs. Obviously, buying way the heck up here is a little bit dangerous. A lot of traders like that breakout pullback. And a pullback could be to settlement, which, I mean, that's pretty nice. Whether or not it'll actually make it there will be the big question. Let's flip all these back into 15-minute just so we can see where we're actually at here. We had to zoom so far out. All the other ones are good. All right. Let's jump on over to the faster time frames here. And see what's going on from there. Let's get this out of the way. Move this. So I can make that smaller. Not by much, huh? No, that'll work. Anyway. So looking at the Nasdaq on the faster time frame here, looks like a deeper pullback is kind of necessary. Pretty vindictive trap on the highs too. Hey Duncan, how's it going? I mean, this move down, looking at what's happened just from the beginning of the session, starting from the weekend, we kind of kicked off this little sideways move. I mean, technically, the first 500 tick bar of the session is effectively the range high and low that we've been dealing with for the better part of, well, since Sunday. Having a real hard time getting outside of that. As it stands, I mean, really, if we were to project this down for a range that actually fits halfway decently, the only range that really fits anymore... Yikes. Ugh, man, I don't like any of them, but I guess the best fit would be... That's a real bummer. I guess the best fit for the low would be there. As far as the range is concerned, it did break above the highs by a little bit, but not enough to really deviate it above the highs, and it didn't hold it well enough to really confirm that the range top is up there. If we were to anchor it up on the highs, it didn't really it didn't do enough. And if we anchor it up on the real high there, again, they didn't really do enough. And if this is the high, this doesn't include the previous, so there's just too much missing. It makes more sense that the range is a little bit more internalized. Even something like this. Look at all the responsive bouncing that's going on. So that potentially would dictate the highs of the range better than anything else that we've seen so far, at least. Otherwise, though, there's not really much else that's changed. I mean, they tried getting a cycle to the upside. It took half a century, but they did eventually get the break and continuation to a new high. And after that, that led into a very aggressive break to the downside and a continuation lower, which has succeeded kind of technically, sort of, but this looks like it could be a candidate for a deeper corrective phase into one more low. Or maybe even just a retest of settlement. Either way. Looking at the S&P on the tick chart, zooming in a little bit closer and seeing what's going on here. Once again, very, very much stuck inside of the first 500, or well, in this case, 2,000 tick candle. But I do think that we've got enough back and forth inside of here to say that this isn't necessarily a range as much as a continuation of the previous trend. It makes more sense that way. The way that this is moving, we're not seeing enough proof on the highs for a range. It's just not enough. So I think we're kind of forced to go into Friday's price action and assume that we're still kind of going along with it. I hate using Friday's price action, but we can't ignore that it fits. You know? So, as long as you can spell socks, it is what it is. S-O-C-K-S. You're good. We just got to go with it. 5 minutes until the open. 4.5 minutes until the open, really. As far as crude oil is concerned, we've got a really, really strong continuation to the upside. But it looks like it's falling a bit short here. The overall last bounce was off of an L2, and then it led into an L1. They're kind of climbing the ladder. If the bulls are going to hold it, they're likely going to hold L1s, and that is where all the defense is coming in the 84.40s. The bulls are going to defend this low. 84.40s is the area. But honestly, if they want to come into parity with this L2 dip from before, then an L2 once again would make a bit more sense at 84.08. Remember, the bigger picture on crude oil is also looking for a deeper correction for the bulls to get in on. They don't want to buy way the heck up here. They want to buy a pullback. Buying up here is incredibly dangerous. Gold. Honestly, if we don't have resistance on gold up here where it is now, I would be surprised. We're already starting to see some. I mean, they're going to really have to rifle out through the top. And even then, they're going to have to get going. Lower highs, that's a problem. We'll see. They're just now trying to get it going. I mean, where the channel doesn't even fit. It's like the best fit is, what, this? This looks terrible. Doesn't fit on the... no, I can't. No thanks. The euro, man, that doesn't look any better. Yikes. Most voluminous on the crypto side of things, Ethereum, Link, and Mana. Ethereum, Link, and Mana. We've got those all locked and loaded. We were talking about a few other alternatives in the Discord chat room with, what were they? Obviously Shiba, but Qtum, with, man, that trade on Qtum going into the weekend that we were talking about on the 29th, we were looking at a move on QTUM into the 14s. Jeez, oh Pete, it's up to 1760s. It high'd at 1918. Talk about a little bit of an underestimation on how far that thing can go. Jeez. Beautiful rally to the upside on Qtum. Yeah, we were talking about that on Friday in Discord. That was over here. Going into the weekend, looking for halfway into the 14s. Totally missed that one. Yep. Some other ones that are looking interesting, Mana. KSM and a few others, but you know, the way that they're setting up, they might need a little bit more time. Shiba is obviously one that's going to be of interest and will be for quite a while. The pent-up aggression on this little consolidation they have going on Shiba right now, oh man, that's a spicy meatball. Jeez. We'll see what they're able to get going, but this could get real interesting. Shiba's looking nuts right now to the upside. Up another bajillion %. Here we go. Do I have the right title on this? Yeah, it's for November. Okay, good. One minute until the open. Right around the corner here. That's not right. Let's try reloading that price data. That's not right either. Let's try reloading that price data. Nope, that's not right either. 15 minute? Reload that? No. 5 minute? No? Alright. Is all of my crypto data screwed up? Sometimes Coinbase does that. So if Coinbase does that, the easiest way to fix it is to disconnect and reconnect to Coinbase on Ninja. See if that fixes the problem here. My link chart is obviously messed up. There we go. Beauty. We got 5 seconds right around the corner until the open. Honestly, what would make a lot of sense is the Nasdaq to pulse above the 73s for a continuation back to the downside to vindictively trap the lows and then go back up to the highs. So I would like to see a little bit of a pop at the open above the 70s to 75s for the shorts to pressure back, right back down towards those lows. We are getting a settlement test. The bulls are obviously winning the fights right now. Really, Nasdaq? Would it make it up to 68.75? Awesome. Thanks. Hey, how's it going, Ace? Good morning, good morning. Well, we did get the continuation to the downside that I wanted to see, and we did get the move up that I wanted to see, just not as far. Ugh. Frustrating. S&P demonstrating some halfway decent bullish support down here on the lows, but it almost feels like it's too obvious. A lot of times when it's that obvious, it ends up being a trap. Maybe I've just been vindicted too many times. Maybe that's what it is. Seller continuation to the downside on the Nasdaq, still pulsing lower. We haven't had that move up. It's still a candidate for a possible trap above the 73s, but the next rotation down to a new low is a lot less likely. The S&P is also starting to get a little bit of a pulse back to the upside. The Nasdaq, as far as the bullish continuation back up, this is where the longs will start trying to pick it up. It's low risk, high reward. S&P has a beautiful bar to get things going as well. So far, the Nasdaq hasn't even made a higher high. So it's a little bit harder to trust the Nasdaq if you compare it to the S&P. Yep. Get it, Samsung. Good old laundry day. Nasdaq trapping underneath that last bull bar. The next dip, likely into these 45s or so, is going to be bulls trying to pick it up. They only made it down to 47s. I gotta stop talking out loud. They're not letting it happen. All right. Can we get a dip down into the 45s? There we go. Nice little pulse down into the lows. Nice little dip down into that base. Nice little fill on that extra one. See if we can get a pulse back up above like the 47s or so for the next continuation phase. Beautiful bull bar. And we'll take the scalp back out. Nice. First in, first out. I think the first one's still a loss. No, the first one's actually a win. Nice. So all of them were technically wins. The first one's basically a scratch, though. Nice little addition on that secondary dip, though. Sellers still kind of pushing back a little bit, but at least in the Nasdaq, they're trying to make higher highs this time around. It's early. I mean, we're still fighting the drift. S&P bulls are definitely winning the fight. The Nasdaq's running into a bit of difficulty. Link popping to a new high. Shiba's starting to rally up too. Ooh. All right, market just kind of herky-jerking around, not really doing much of anything. Do you always wait out the first 5-minute bar in the S&P? No, not always. Depending on what's going on, if it makes sense, then there's, you know, if there's a logical setup for sure. But it depends on what's going on more than anything else. Today it's been a little bit of a slower start. We can feel it, you know. It's definitely not going nuts by any means. Yeah, no problem. Also, you know, another consideration too is that what's going on in the volume. I mean, look at the first 5-minute bar today. This thing's a train wreck, you know. So there's just a lot less going on from that perspective when compared to other days. Like the Nasdaq's got a lot of good action, so there's a lot of good movement on the Nasdaq. So there's scalps, but the S&P looks like a mess. So SOCKS, right? And the market's just kind of hovering around, not really doing anything. Is it too late? At this point, I'm too afraid to ask, right? It's that meme. SOCKS, if you spell socks, that's how you say it is what it is in Spanish. SOCKS. So the reminder that we always joke about is, as long as you can spell socks, it is what it is, you'll be all right. Sellers are still driving to the downside. Bears almost to settlement on the S&P, just a couple ticks away. Nasdaq's already through it. Settlement tested. Here it sits. Not really much happening. Still grinding our way down. Link catching a nice pulse back up, almost to 31 now. Mana dipping back down to the $3.20. I don't know if I trust using the order flow. Please don't crash. Hey, you know what? Hang on, let me do it this way. I'm going to put it over here. Oh, shit, that was Ethereum. Let me just do it over here and screw this chart up. All right. So if you're unfamiliar, for whatever reason, lately, whenever I draw my order flow on Coinbase stuff, it crashes my charts. Like, the whole thing just falls apart. And it's because it's based on tick. So if I set it to minute, and then save this as my default, that should fix it. And then hopefully it won't crash on me. Please. Please don't crash. It's there. I can see it calculating. Uh-oh. Ooh, my chart's herky-jerky. Oh, no. Delete it. Delete it. Get it off the chart. I made a mistake. Get it off. No, I don't want it anymore. This is what I'm talking about. See, my other charts work just fine. But now my mana chart's frozen. Get it off. Ooh, get it off. Ha! Got it. Freaking Coinbase. Alright, let me just... Ooh, hang on. No, that's on Ethereum. I almost made a mistake. Pop this over here. There we go. All right, bulls finding a little bit of support, bouncing on the S&P off of settlement, but really not a whole lot happening. The seller's still grinding the market to the downside. The seller's still firmly in control. Nice little back and forth kind of playground here, but that's really about it. Alright, Link continuing higher, 31 right around the corner. Still driving. S&P bulls will possibly start maybe picking it back up. But I mean now, you know, again, we're still making lower lows, lower highs now. There's no context. There's no nothing to hold them up. Yeah. I mean, if we're looking at Friday as an example, looking back historically on the Nasdaq to see what's the last point of support that we've got. You know, and the last point of support was this congestion that happened back here. And there's, I mean, nothing until 785. That's it. I mean, there's just not much. So we'll see what they want to do, but there's a lot of open space underneath us. All right, going on 9:45. A little bit of a checkpoint here. Again, trying to structure the days a little bit differently as we get ready to adjust schedules and everything going into the new year and holidays and all that fun stuff. Looking at potential day trading opportunities and zooming out a little bit and seeing what's going on for potential swings. Now, I don't want to set up swings on the Nasdaq or the S&P because I leave those open for us. But as far as the gold market, first off, let's take a look at gold. The first zone of interest on gold, if we are able to get a rotation back from a swing perspective, the obvious thing that stands out is that the sellers have pressured back really, really hard. I think bulls are possibly stuck, and on that stuck, if you will, the last time that they had that new high was over here. They left behind a POC back at 1804. So if the sellers are going to take it back to the downside, then realistically, it makes a lot more sense for them to start pressuring around that zone. The thing is, if we're looking at a 3-to-1, that doesn't fit. Right? The 2-to-1 fits. The 2-to-1 fits there perfectly. But for a 3-to-1, we've got to modify a little bit differently. So maybe here? Let's try there first, see if that looks all right. Whew, close. About there? Ooh, close. Good enough. Good enough. All right, so this is the 2-to-1, 3-to-1 zone of interest. And if they really want to have some fun and get a 5-to-1... just a little bit. Doesn't take much to move this thing. There we go. In the 5-to-1 zone, it's just a little bit further up about there. So for gold, that's going to be the zone of interest for the downside. See if they want to get a rotation off that point back lower. 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 5-to-1. Should be interesting. Over on crude oil, we've got a, I mean, again, the obvious thing for crude is that we've got a really strong continuation to the upside. And with this strong continuation, I want to see what they've been holding. We've got an L5, which led into an L3, then it pulled all the way down into an L4, and that led back into an L1. So really, being that it's at the highs, it's hard to set any limit orders. I just need to wait for a bit of a pullback. There's not really much we can do there. And the euro... So the only one that's really setting up any type of swing is going to be gold at the moment for an intraday trade. Link breaking above 31. They can't celebrating Halloween. Yeah, seriously. S&P with a higher low, another possibility that longs try kicking back up. We already know that the S&P is a lot more bullish than the Nasdaq. They're holding supportiveness off of settlement. That'd be a second long as well, but so far we're still technically lower low, lower high. The caffeine going, I guess. Mana back in the threes. Let's see. Mana. On the hourly, we're way far away on the hourly. How about the 15-minute? There we go. All right, so they're trying to create a little bit of a base here. The one thing that stands out on Mana is that we've got a nice little continuation phase. It's trying to hold across, but man, I was hoping it would look a little bit nicer inside of here. How about really, really short term? Let's go into a 5-minute. What's the order flow look like? Long all the way up to the highs. Shorts, or longs effectively, are long from 272, and there's been no change. So. I was hoping there'd be a little bit of a nicer pullback down in the threes, but that volume support's down in the 72s. It just doesn't line up nice enough. They got some problems. The S&P scalp technically worked. It was dirty. It went one extra tick, but it worked. Big rejection on Link now, diving back down below 30s momentarily. Or into the 30s momentarily, sorry. S&P trying to create a secondary push to the upside, although relatively weak as far as the bull bar is concerned. Bears are trying to get more continuation down in the Nasdaq. The more recent volume nodes across the board's back at 15,820. So, I mean, this is kind of sloppy, gross. Even if we go all the way back, you know, and include some of these previous moves, it's still down in the 820s. So, got some waiting to do. Man, I did get that nice little dip back, but this thing's just been nonstop up. Every time we've had a really strong pulse up, if we're measuring mana, That's not going to work. Yikes, those measurements are way crazy. 2002 what? Okay. All right, 15,820 sellers do flush back to the downside and take back over. It's not really doing much. Gold's doesn't have anything until 1804. That's where the swing is. There isn't anything else. Nice little return back up into the 820s. Now remember, from the bigger picture, this dive down could be nothing more than a lot of potential shorts who got stuck down here looking to get out. So this balance point kind of lands right around the 766. It's got plenty of room yet to the downside. See if the bulls can trigger above that last bull bar on the Nasdaq. I couldn't get a fill. I tried shorting into those longs triggering in, but I couldn't get a fill. Nice little pulse to the upside for those shorts to repressure back down again. And scalp out. Bulls continuing back to the upside and rallying back up. The shorts lost their grip. I mean, that was it. This retest back down. These are the shorts potentially trying to bounce back out for a quick push back to the upside. Right there. Nice little scalp dip back out. Whenever shorts come in and they get steamrolled like that, you can count on them getting out at break even on the next dip. Algos are pretty consistent. Sellers regaining a little bit of ground though. See if they want to push back. They have been they have been unable to close underneath the lows of that last POC and the more recent POCs down in the 810s. More continuation, diving back down to those 15,810s. This is a big balance point. If the sellers are able to churn underneath the 810s, then they've got a shot at reclaiming the lows. But right now, the bulls are trying to hold it back up. Ooh, whoa. POC shifted right back up, 15,825. What was that? Holy crap. That might have been a break even. The market is pushing through that with very little effort. That could have very easily been a break even stop for a lot of shorts right there at 825. The way that formed, the size of the volume, the location that it formed. Look at our previous area where we were exiting the longs, right? I mean, it's all in that same spot. I'm looking for a push back to the upside, but staying on my guard a little bit here. I think the shorts potentially just got tagged at break even. Which means there's nobody left in their way to push the market back up. There's that pop back to the upside for the scalp. Nice little pop. Was only able to grab the 1, which probably means this is going to go 7 bajillion ticks to the upside because I'm not in it. Man, I know how this works. Nice little flush back here. Bear engulfing candle, big bear bar, 9:55, 10 o'clock around the corner. All right, now the seller's reclaiming that POC back again. These sellers off of the 25s are going to look for a repush. I didn't get a fill, and I missed the scalp. It's just gone. All right, well, I tried. I didn't get a fill. I tried selling into the ask for that push back down off 825. Missed it. Beautiful wick rejections off of those 825s. I didn't get a fill. There's nothing I can do about that. Except maybe cry in a corner. Jeez. Very, very 100% advice, Ace. 100%. It's a luxury that a lot of people don't use to the fullest benefit either. You don't have to pull the trigger. A lot of buying going on down in these 810s. Link breaking back up into the 31s. Nasdaq bulls trying to get a continuation phase to the upside, but this move down, I think a lot of longs got juked a bit there. They missed the break above the highs at 34s, 35s, and now they're rolling back down. I think longs are a bit screwed right now, if I'm totally honest. Yep. See if they can get a push back up into like the 8s or 9s. Would be nice for a bit of follow through. Selling this far down has its challenges. Yeah, it already made a new low. Man, what a mess. That little back and forth transition inside there was gross. All right, well, let's see what they want to do now. POC still hovering down in the 810s. The S&P really doesn't have anything happening. The S&P's real slow. Looking back at the 5-minute chart, we've got some gapping going on, which would suggest possible illiquidity. This is obviously not due to volatility. But little candle gap from close to open here. Another one from there. That's up. Whoops. It's up and up. First time that we've had one that's down. So it looks like the bulls were trying to get it going, and maybe they're starting to slip a little bit. And we know what the S&P looks like on the 15. What's going to hold them? Nada. Not a thing. No trades for me today yet. Frustrated watching the MNQ, so I'll watch. Yeah, exactly. Don't let it get to you. There are going to be days. I mean, there are other people who would say the same thing. You're certainly not alone. Today is one of those days where it's choppy, sloppy, range-bound, and all there really is scalps. There's no major swings here because we're not in a major zone of interest. So you're either left to scalp or sit on your hands. And that's kind of it until we start getting in the zone of interest. All right, 10 o'clock right around the corner. couple seconds. Feel free to get those last questions in. We'll transition into extended session, and then we will we'll roll. Actually, you know what? Today, we're not going to be able to. I've got to duck out a little bit early, so let's keep the morning session going. Like I said, this whole upcoming going into the holiday is going to be a little bit weird. We're not going to be able to do the extended session today, so let's just keep this morning room going for now, and then we'll just call it quits a little bit sooner than later. But feel free to get those questions, and we'll get those covered, and then we'll rock and roll. I'm also thinking this Friday. I'm not even sure if there's going to be a room this Friday. Just as a heads up. Now that we're in November, you know, there's a lot of holidays around the corner here. Everybody's trying to scramble to get everything ready and all that. So we'll keep the morning session going for a little bit longer here, and we'll duck out a little early. Yeah, you too. Have a go. Enjoy. And remember, you know, if you didn't have any trades today, if you're frustrated because there's been a lack of opportunities today, you're not alone. Today's a sideways, choppy, sloppy day. And if we look at really what's actually taken place, the Nasdaq has finally pulled back to a zone of interest. We're there. So, you know, I mean, this is the spot for the swings. The Nasdaq's in that spot. The problem is the S&P is nowhere near it. The S&P's got way far down to go. Maybe they're starting to get a little closer now. All right, they're getting closer. They're getting there. Maybe they'll get it. Zone of interest. Let me take a look. Yep. Yeah, and that small little transition phase creating a POC like that, I mean, obviously a lot happened inside there. Mana is looking halfway decent for a potential bullish continuation, but remember, it's kind of hanging out in no man's land right now up in these 320s. Yeah, we started off the morning with that issue with the YouTube stream. I don't know. Whenever we've got problems like that, we got it to fix though. We're good. We're back. Got to figure out why 1080 has never been an option, but I thought we fixed that, but I guess we didn't. Sellers still driving down. Still working out nicely. Beautiful move so far. At least the ones that let me in for the scalps. 84.50, a lot of volume coming in here. A lot of volume coming in here, but let's compare that to this whole move. Yeah, it's still back in the 20s. Okay. The S&P's on its way to do S&P things. Totally detached from the Nasdaq right now. Honestly, it kind of makes sense, though. You know, the Nasdaq's already been down. The S&P's kind of playing catch-up. Not typically the scenario that happens. Crude oil starting to pull back in that L1 zone of interest. Now remember, the continuation bulls, they're going to be looking to hit it here in the L1s. This is the zone. Does not fit a 3-to-1, only fits a 2-to-1. But it's there. Strictly off the L1 and nothing else. That's pure probabilities, but big flush to the downside there in the S&P. I like 84. A little bit further down on the S&P, down towards like the 84s. I like that a lot more. On the Nasdaq, I would love to see it tag the 765s, 760s. I just don't know that it's going to make it there. That's not the right way. Hang on. There we go. They got down to the 68s. All right, well, like I said, I have to duck out a little bit early, so let's get those questions in. We'll get those covered, and then we'll call it a day. I mean, all things considered, the scalps that set up have been great. It's just, man, no real swing territory or swing areas of interest. We do have gold swing area of interest for the shorts in the 1804s. Crude has one that's setting up pure by the book, by the numbers, 84.47. Not a huge fan of that one per se. I would rather see it dip down into the L2s. I think that fits a lot better. To me, that's also fitting of an 3-to-1 instead of a 2-to-1. And even if we went way out with a wider stop, it still fits a 2-to-1. So it's a lot more realistic to want that long just a bit further down. And it also lines up with DP support. So if I'm going to look for a swing to the upside, I like it a lot more on crude on the dip into the 84.16s to 84s. If it starts breaking through there and getting down to the 82s, then something's probably wrong. But that's the only spot that really lines up right now for crude. KSM popping to the upside. Beautiful lift to the upside here on KSM. All right. Nice. We were talking about KSM triggering the longs above 382s in Discord, what was it, a couple days ago now, but they missed the long. They couldn't quite get up there. They finally triggering it now and rallied from 382 all the way up to 390. Jeez, just pop right through it. It's a good sign. Longs with more continuation to the upside. They've got their targets set out. Upside objectives, 400s to 410s would be nice. But if, say, scalps are only viable on the Nasdaq, then isn't that really risk and volatility more like sit on hands day, at least for folks like me? Yes and no. It kind of depends on the type of scalp that you're looking for. I mean, remember, a scalp is not a scalp is not a scalp is not a scalp. One scalp could just be based on the fact that it's measuring with a half distance versus 1 versus 0.5, right? That's by definition a scalp. But then again, I haven't been doing that at all today. I've been taking the 10, 15 tick scalps, literally scalps. So in that type of scalping, if you're looking to stay out of the aggression and look for the higher probability setups that line up with higher reward versus risk, even if you're looking for the same scenario, higher reward versus risk on scalps, meaning the half to 1 type thing, this is not that cup of tea for right. You would be 100% correct. There have not been any statistical good scalps, if you will, in the way that they've been setting up. Now, that said, that doesn't mean that you couldn't look for potentially, let's say, shorts on this last rally to the upside and build in and all of that. I mean, sure, that would have worked out nicely to the downside with a continuation. But then again, you've got to look at how much risk you're taking on. I mean, you're going from the top to the next swing, it's like 73 ticks. It depends on if it fits your risk profile, you know? I mean, from the purest definition of scalp, that'd be it. So if they were scalping above that last swing high, and they were looking for downside targets with their stops above the top, I mean, you can see, right? There's a reason why the responses are happening here. But that's just, nah, that's just not my jam. No. So for me, today, I would rather just aggressive scalp. Aggro scalp it, 10, 15s. Call it good. I tried getting a nice little long this morning, but I didn't want to follow through. So it kind of told me, time to hit the scalps. Or, in cases like you were talking about, time to sit on hands. Patience. It's one of our most effective tools. Don't confuse patience with greed, though. Gone your account will be. All right, well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, and like I said, I got to duck early. That's going to do it today. Overall, really solid as far as the scalp side of things goes. I tried getting along for a little bit more of a bigger scalp, but couldn't quite get it going. SOCKS, right? Got out on the break even, and honestly, it was still ended up being a beautiful long building into that little dip. After that, though, I didn't have anything on the S&P. We've got continuations and bounces and all of that on the Nasdaq, but everything has been a scalp. That's it. So the swing areas of interest, we don't have anything until gold hits 1804 and crude oil hits 84.16. The S&P and the Nasdaq are now starting to dip into those long-term swing areas of interest, but it's brand new, so it's fresh. It's probably early. Might have to bounce around here for a little while. Then again, we've also seen these turn into V-bottoms. So, you know, there's an argument for both sides. If it's going to be a V-bottom, usually there's a lot of higher-low, really aggressive higher-low perpetual failures. It'll be a clue, but give it a little more time. That'll do it, though. Enjoy the rest of the day. If I miss any questions, shoot me an email, jhb@ssftg.com, or drop them in the comments below on YouTube. We'll get them covered from there. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of the day. Rest up, and we will see you all tomorrow morning, hopefully, with 720p or higher out of the gates instead of having to restart everything. Huh? Enjoy, rest up. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks. Bye.